So the way that this Pokemon works is rather interesting. The evolution is very different. Hi trainers, I'm Teeds, this is Nuts, and today we're going to be looking at Scizor. Scizor is the next new all-rounder released on the 29th of September, so the end of next month, and these are the full movesets of Scizor. Also, huge shout out to Phil, or also known as Yoomuus. They put this whole presentation together and it's so laid out neatly for us and everything. Please check out their channel. I will have his link down below. He is also another Pokemon Unite YouTuber. For the question of the day, what do you think about Scyther? Let me know in the comments down below, and which moves do you think you'll be picking up? I'd love to hear your answers down below. Okay, let's look into it. So we can see we have Scyther here. For the passive, it is Technician / basic attack plus the enhanced auto for Scyther. So with Technician, after this Pokemon uses a move, its next basic attack will change and deal 2 consecutive basic attacks instead. The second of these deal decreased damage. So the second one deals decreased damage, it sounds like, but you basically get a double basic after using a move. For its basic attack, becomes a boosted attack with every third attack, dealing additional damage and increasing the user's movement speed for a short time. So you get movement speed after you use a basic attack, like the boosted attack, and then you deal additional damage. It's a very straightforward boosted attack. Then we have Fury Cutter as its first skill, and this is for Scyther only. So Fury Cutter has the user slash twice with its Scythers in a cone in front of itself, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon it hits. The second slash deals more damage than the first, so a very straightforward move. You just deal damage basically, and the second one is even more damage, and this one is only for Scyther. For its second move, it is Quick Attack, and you can use this on Scyther and Scizor, I think. I think that's what they mean by same for both, unless it's both only Scyther. I don't know. Has the user dash forward, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon it makes contact with along the way. So it's basically a mobility move as well as a setup like to go into fights, initiation move, very straightforward as well. The move you can upgrade this into is a double hit, and it's the same for both again. So maybe it's Scizor and Scyther, and we have 2 different like icons here. I'm guessing one for Scyther, one for Scizor. Has the user jump in the designated direction, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon it hits during the jump and applying a mark on them. So you get like an X mark on them, as we can see in the image. After the user hits opposing Pokemon with this move, it jumps again in the designated direction. When the user lands, its next basic attack becomes a boosted attack, and it charges at a nearby opposing Pokemon. If a marked opposing Pokemon is knocked out, all of the user's moves cooldown are reduced. And when upgraded, very simple, it reduces this move's cooldown. So you jump in the designated direction, you mark them, you deal damage to them, and then you jump again after hitting them, and then you use your boosted basic attack and charge at a nearby. So there's a lot going on in this move. It literally is a double hit. So if you ever get confused, just remember that this move double hits. But it's really cool that if you do knock them out, your move cooldowns are also reduced. So I wonder how much the move cooldowns are reduced. So the other move you can upgrade into is Sword Dance, also for Scyther and for Scizor. As you can see, there are 2 icons here depending on who you are. So it looks like, it doesn't explain the evolution yet, but in the main series, please correct me if I'm wrong here, trainers, because I don't know too much about Scizor. But to evolve Scyther into Scizor, you need a metal coat and you need to use it on Scyther. And with that, Scyther will instantly evolve. So for Sword Dance, has the user dash a short distance, increasing its attack power for a short time. While the user's attack power is increased, the user's 8th basic attack becomes an area of effect attack that pierces through opposing Pokemon in a line. And when you upgrade this, it also reduces the damage the user receives from opposing Pokemon while dashing. So your 8th basic attack becomes an area of effect. Does that mean maybe you have like, it says increases power for a short time, and while your power is increased, so you're very basic attack focused here, but your 8th one, I wonder how fast the attack speed is on Sword Dance or on Scyther / Scizor. It also says that it pierces through opposing Pokemon in a line, so it will hit everyone in that line. So in team fights, if there's multiple Pokemon in that line move, you will hit everyone. And this move is also a very short mobility move, it seems, as well. So you have these little swords. I wonder how this works. Does the swords like continually do damage around the player? It doesn't sound like it does from what I'm reading here. Very curious to see how this one's going to look in game. The moves that you can upgrade from your first ability is Dual Wing Beat for Scyther only. So this one's only Scyther. Has the user slash in front of itself with both of its Scythers, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the X-shaped area of effect. If this move deals damage to an opposing Pokemon in the center of the X-shaped area of effect, it restores the user's health. If this move hits an opposing Pokemon, it can be used again within a set amount of time. If this move is used again, the user dashes in the designated direction, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon it makes contact with. The dash deals more damage the lower the opposing Pokemon's health is. And when upgraded, you increase the damage dealt by this move. So on the ground here, you can see there's an X-shaped effect. And if you get it right on the dot, if you hit the enemy right there, right in the middle, you will get some sustained health back. So you get some health back for Scyther. But generally, if this move hits an enemy Pokemon, you can use it again within a set time frame. So you have a bit of time to use it again. Otherwise, it just goes back on cooldown, I'm assuming. And when you use it again, you dash. So maybe what you want to do here is you want to hold the move, use other moves or use basic attacks, then use the move again when you can within that time frame, like to deal damage, because you want to make sure the enemy that you're targeting is low enough to have the dash deal more damage, because it deals more damage the lower they are, which means that you could practically finish them off with the dash as long as they're super low, is how I'm seeing it. That's really interesting. Really like how in-depth these are, like how much information we're getting. Because remember, we used to like not get a lot of info in the abilities, but now it seems like they're putting more effort into like explaining every single thing that's happening. For Scyther's Unite move, has the user dash and attack a designated Pokemon on the opposing team, then create 5 illusory copies of itself that each dash a set distance from the user. The copies deal damage to opposing Pokemon they make contact with and apply a mark on them. After a short time, the copies return to the user, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon they make contact with. This move can be used again before the illusory copies return to the user. If it is used again, the user dashes in the designated direction and deals damage to opposing Pokemon it hits. At the end of the dash, the copies dash to the user's location. If a copy makes contact with an opposing Pokemon while dashing, the copy deals damage to that Pokemon and disappears. If a marked opposing Pokemon is knocked out, all the user's moves cooldowns are reduced. That was so much that I don't even think my brain just processed properly what's going on here. So I'm going to try and summarize this as well as I can for you trainers. So your Unite move is a dash, attacks the enemy, creates 5 copies around Lucario here, marks them with an X as well. Shortly after, your copies will return to you, and each copy, so for example, let's say Scyther here is right on top of Lucario. All these copies will return to Scyther and you will deal damage for each copy, but you can use this move again before the copies return. So this means that you can dash again, I'm assuming. So basically you can just dash and then dash again to reposition yourself to make sure the copies hit the enemy Pokemon that you're marking or that you're trying to attack. That's how I see it from what I'm reading right now and from what I'm seeing as well, which is really interesting. I wonder if this hits multiple. I think it might hit multiple because it says to opposing Pokemon they make contact with. It doesn't sound like a single target move, but again, I'm not too sure. I'm wondering if you go into a team fight where everyone's just like crowded together, if you could just all have your clones attack them. And if you do take them out, the cooldowns are reduced as well. Okay, so those are some of Scyther's moves. I think you can play different Pokemon here. Okay, next we have is Bullet Punch for skills. This is the move you can upgrade into if you're Scizor. Bullet Punch has the user dash in the designated direction and strike opposing Pokemon with tough punches. If this move hits opposing Pokemon, its cooldown is reduced and the user recovers a portion of its health based on the amount of damage dealt. If Bullet Punch is used again within a set amount of time, the number of punches and the amount of damage dealt increase. The number of punches increases from 3 to a maximum of 5. When upgraded, it also grants a shield if this move hits opposing Pokemon. So you get some shield if you're hitting the opposing Pokemon, so that gives you some survivability, and you also get health back based on the amount of damage you deal, and you reduce your cooldown as well if you hit the opposing Pokemon. They put a lot of like things into these moves, which is really interesting. So that is Bullet Punch for Scizor. Oh my god, Scizor has a different Scizor has different passive and basic attacks. Okay, so for Scizor, after this Pokemon uses a move, its next basic attack will change and deal 2 consecutive basic attacks instead. The second of these deal decreased damage, and for its basic attack becomes a boosted attack with every 3rd attack, decreasing the movement speed of enemy Pokemon when it hits and increasing the user's defense for a short time. This defense increase can stack. I'm not gonna lie, trainers, this Pokemon is like 2-in-1. It's like 2-in-1. You have like 2 different Pokemon, but like that you're trying to like work with here. So my memory, I'm gonna make sure my memory remembers these things. So Technician seems to be the same as Scyther's. It does say Scyther here though, so I'm not sure if this is meant to say Scyther, or maybe Scyther and Scizor just share the same passive. I don't know, but I think the basic attack was different. stats. So you get defense here, and you get increased movement speed as well. Or decrease the movement speed of enemy Pokemon. Although defense hasn't been shown to be very like reliable in Pokemon Unite, I wonder if anyone's actually gonna like test it properly. Maybe I should. And then we have Scizor's Unite move. Okay, let's see how this is different. Has a user dash before throwing consecutive punches at a designated Pokemon on the opposing team, decreasing that Pokemon's movement speed. As the last punch is thrown, 5 copies of the user are created that each dash a set distance from the user. If a copy hits an opposing Pokemon while dashing, it deals damage, decreasing that Pokemon's movement speed, then disappears. For a short time, this move can be used again. If this move is used again, the user dashes in the designated direction and deals damage to opposing Pokemon it hits before punching the ground, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. If the user hits a Pokemon on the opposing team while dashing, the user grabs that Pokemon and continues dashing. If the grabbed Pokemon hits an illusory copy, it will be incapacitated. This is so much to take in. Like, it's so much to take in. So instead of like, I'm going by memory here, but instead of like Scyther who just dashes and marks them with an X, you do have consecutive punches before you dash. You dash before you throw a bunch of punches here. So in the image, you can see that it's punching Lucario. You also decrease their movement speed, making it harder for them to like run away, especially because you get like a bit of a movement speed increase in your Unite move as well. And you can use this move again. And if you do, it seems like you will hit the ground and deal an area of effect. This is great for team fights. And if you do hit the Pokemon on the enemy team while dashing, you also grab them and you continue dashing. So it seems like you can run with them, like, like you're holding them while you dash. And you can try and push them into an illusory copy to incapacitate them. Wow. I am trying so hard to remember all of this. I think it's better if I actually could play it to see how it works properly, because obviously by words it can get like a bit much. But those are the moves for Scizor and Scyther. So I don't really know how the evolution thing works yet. It doesn't say if Scyther just evolves into Scizor or if it's like, do you have to choose if you want to evolve it or not? Because Scyther also has its own moves as well. So as you can see, there's different icons here. So you play either Scyther or Scizor is what I'm thinking, unless you can switch between them. So I don't really know. It's so interesting. I don't think it explains it. I don't think it did. So those are the moves for Scizor. I will have Muse ones up very soon as well. So if you're about to be notified for that, let me know in the comments down below what you think about all this. Thank you so much for watching, trainers. I hope to catch you for the next one. Like the video if you're going to be picking up Scizor, and yeah, I can't wait for this Pokemon to come out and see what it's about. I'll catch you for the next one.